students, welcome to our first micro lecture for this class. The purpose of micro lectures are to take some of the concepts from the chapter that historically I've seen students struggle with the most and really focus on that for a short lecture. So today we are in chapter 1. As you're reading this chapter, you're learning about what is psychology. So here is the definition: the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Let me break that down for you a little bit. Psychology is a science. So as I teach you here in a little bit about the history of psychology and why we embark so strongly on the term scientific, is because it's not always been that way. But today, the question of how and why humans have certain behavior is answered through scientific studies. We will really get into this in chapter 2 and emphasize through the scientific method where we get our study from in psychology. So the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. The behavior side of it is what we can see. It is all the observations that we see in the world of people behaving. You will have an assignment coming up soon where you are going to hypothetically design an experiment, a survey, some type of research method. And the first question on there that you need to answer is, what behavior are you studying? And that is usually going to be an observable behavior. So it is that outward. I can sit in a room and watch people and see how they interact, their eye contact, their body language, all those different types of things that we'll look at. And then, of course, the mental process side of it. So this is a little bit trickier because these are the things that we can't see. And so this is what's going on in the brain: their thoughts, their feelings, their motives. And so we put those two together, the behavior and the mental processes, study that through scientific means, and thus we have psychology. So that is what I will be elaborating on and teaching you all semester. So just wanted to set the groundwork on that definition there. And now I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here and really talk about the history of psychology, specifically looking at structuralism and functionalism. You will have an assignment in Connect over structuralism and functionalism. And I think it's part of that history that students sometimes are like, can you explain that a little bit more? So let's do our micro lecture on structuralism and functionalism. So as we look at the history of psychology, psychology is a relatively new discipline, credited to being found by Wilhelm Wundt. He was German, and he was actually he was a philosopher, he was a physician, and he took these two sides of his training and founded psychology. In 1879, he established the first psychological lab. Interestingly, what they were studying in that lab is they did an experiment to measure the time lag between the instant a person hears a sound and the moment he or she pressed a telegraph key to signal that they had heard the sound. And so why is this significant is because it really was the first experiment done on the workings of a live brain. And so that is what Wundt's work was all about. And so because he was really looking at psychology through the lens of the basic elements and structures of mental process, we call his school of thought, this early history of psychology, structuralism. And structuralism is very introspective, meaning that structuralists really are asking the individual to go inward and to think about their mental process. So how many times throughout the day do we have a behavior and we stop and think, why did I yell at my kids today? Why did I jump on my significant other or my partner today? You know, why did I flip that person off in traffic? Hopefully you're not doing that. But, you know, we have these behaviors, and usually we just kind of move forward and don't think about why we had the behavior that we did. And I'm sorry, I used all negative behaviors as an example. Of course, it can be the good ones too. I really think about, you know, drawing the analogy to mindfulness today. Today, you know, we would probably call structuralism mindfulness, which is where we stop, we pause, we take a moment, and we look inward and really think about, okay, how do I feel in this moment? What caused that behavior? So that's what that introspection side is looking for. So this was really significant in the history of psychology. It, you know, was really, psychology was migrating. We had these early psychologists from Germany and Vienna, but they were bringing the field of psychology strongly to the United States. But prior to this, I mean, as we go as far back in history as we possibly can, people were asking about human behavior. People were asking the why questions. You know, some of the popular why questions in human behavior for thousands of years is, you know, how do we learn? What is memory? You know, why do I have these things called dreams? What do they mean? These people were still asking for thousands of years. There just was not a systematic way of studying it. And if I'm honest with you, you know, we look back to ancient times, we look at, you know, things from mythology and how did they explain certain behaviors. Well, you know, they would say things like you know, the gods are angry and that's why this is occurring. Of course, we know that many times issues with mental health were blamed on demonic possession of someone, you know, and so there's all these reasons that people early on were asking where and why people were behaving that way, but there was not a systematic scientific way. And so all of these myths and, you know, urban legends and so forth started to matriculate to explain human behavior. So Wundt's establishment of the first psychological lab was significant. His paradigm of thought of structuralism really was for the first time trying to answer these questions that have been asked for thousands of years, but to answer them and to study them in a scientific way. So that, hopefully that helps with structuralism. After structuralism, so this was established in 1879. He really was studying from 1832 to 1920. In that time frame, but about 10 years lag, another early what we now call historian of psychology came along, and that was William James. So from about 1842 to 1910. And James was looking at the work of the structuralist, and he didn't completely, you know, negate everything that those theorists were saying, but he took it a step further, or if you will, put his spin on it. And he really, where structuralists were emphasizing the components of the mind, functionalism, which was William James' theory, really probed the functions and purpose of the mind and behavior in the individual's adaptation to the environment. So he really was focused on human interactions with the outside world and the purpose of thought. So, you know, if structuralists were asking the what of the mind, functionalists were asking the why. So we've got the what of, you know, the structuralist and the why of the functionalist. And so James' theory really focused on the mind and looked at the mind as flexible and fluid, meaning that we weren't stuck in our thoughts, that we could actually change the way we're thinking about things. Remember, he was really looking at the adaptation to the environment. If we know anything, if the last 18 months have taught us anything, it is that, you know, you cannot count on things remaining the same way, that there's going to be change. And so the functionalists early on were realizing this, and they were studying how well people adapted to that change. How flexible were they in their thought patterns? And then while adapting to the environment, really characterized this idea of constant change in a continuous flow of information. So things aren't set. Today, again, we use this terminology with crystallized intelligence and fluid intelligence. Those are today's buzzwords. When these new words like mindfulness and fluid intelligence come out, and new authors are writing self-help books and so forth, I'm always kind of left like, yeah, but you know, in psychology, since the 1800s, we've been talking about this. You've just coined it a different term. So these aren't hugely different, but very significant in the history of psychology. So I hope this micro lecture helps you to understand the difference between structuralism and functionalism and how they come together to really build the history of psychology. So hope you enjoyed. Good luck on your Connect assignment.